Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back ladies and gentlemen for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a fantastic weekend so far. Today we thought we would just give a nice and chilled out video. Even though this is a chilled out video, this is a video that has the utmost importance, as we are going to be trying to ask and answer the question of when you should sell your cryptocurrencies, when you should take profits. Now, before I start, there's not one answer that fits everybody's situation. There's not one size that fits all here. Everybody has to tailor make this to themselves. But what we're going to try and do in this video is get you guys to think about when potentially it might be a good time for you personally to take profits. And we're going to do a number of things in this video. One thing that I'm going to spend a lot of time focusing on is Bitcoin, and more importantly, our Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory that we have. Because the top of bull markets have literally quite accurately coincided with the end of the year and the end of the 4-year Bitcoin cycle, and we're going to talk about this. And this is something that I personally follow. We've been following this and highlighting this for a long time. We've been following this for nearly 4 years now, before we really even understood it. And ultimately, I'm still following this to this day as it has come to fruition, and the 4-year cycle is essentially repeated. And you guys will know that in 2021 we are in a 2017-esque situation. And I do believe the bull run is going to come to an end. There's lots of different theories out there in regards to the lengthening cycle theory, that kind of suggests that the bull runs get longer and top out at a later date. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what I'm personally doing, and why I'm doing it, giving you the reasons behind it, and then you guys can maybe come up with your own strategy. Now, in my own personal situation, I've been here for nearly 5 years. I got into the market in 2017 at the right or wrong time, depending on how you want to look at it, and essentially got that baptism of fire in 2018 and had the luxury of holding throughout a very dull, uninteresting bear market. So right now where I'm at with a lot of my positions, a lot of my bags, is very comfortable. It's one reason I've been able to endure the pullbacks that we have in the crypto space so well, because from where my initial entry was in many of my positions, many of my bags, I'm doing very, very well. So right now, in actual fact, wouldn't be a bad time for me to take profits. However, I do believe there's more gains to come, and I'll certainly be holding the majority of my cryptocurrencies till the end of the year. And even still, I have about 25% of my entire portfolio that I'm just going to hold indefinitely. And I have reasons for doing this, but I am absolutely going to be taking profits towards the end of the year, and we're very close. We're 2 months, essentially 2 months and about 7 days from the end of the year, from the year end, the start of the new year, and that's why this video is of utmost importance. So let's get into it, guys. And really, this is where we're starting. We're starting with the Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory, and the first thing that I want to highlight is this is on a normal sort of scale here, but what I want to do is I want to flip it to a logarithmic scale, and this just kind of works things out in percentages and kind of simplifies things. And you can see that the 4-year cycle theory is very accurate here. And of course, we had a 4-year cycle theory starting in 2010 or 2009, sorry, that led up to 2013, and this was of course the last year within your 4-year cycle theory, and then you enter another 4-year cycle theory finishing in 2017, and you've done the same thing today, ladies and gentlemen. And if the 4-year cycle theory continues to play out, why might it continue to play out? Well, we followed it today very, very accurately. We know that the Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory is centered around the halvening, which is where the Bitcoin supply, the Bitcoin inflation rate, if you will, gets halved. The circulating supply of, or the mined Bitcoin actually halves, and this causes a supply shock, which causes the price to increase. And this is going to continue. This is something built into Bitcoin's code. And this kind of gives a reason why potentially we're going to follow it. So this is the main reason why I'm going to be taking profits towards the end of the year. You can see with the turn of 2018, you enter a bear market after playing out your 4 years. And it's the same thing with 2013. And there is definitely credence to the Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory, or the Bitcoin cycle's lengthening. But it's really followed this 4-year cycle theory very accurately. And this is something that you need to pay attention to, because if we do then follow it again, that would mean potentially, if you look at where we sort of topped out in 2013 to the bottom, that's an 87% pullback. In 2017 going into 2018, if you looked at where we topped out around about 20,000, that's an 84% pullback. So you don't really want to be holding that. I mean, if we do, let's say we top out, very generic, basic, at 100k and we get an 85% pullback, you know, that takes you down to around about 15,000. So you're not really going to want to hold that. Altcoins sell off more significantly. If we look at something like Ethereum, we're going to touch on altcoins in just a second, because I'm going to tell you when potentially you should be selling your Bitcoin, and obviously when you should be selling your altcoins. Altcoins sell off significantly more. I mean, Ethereum sold off by 95%. This was a curse to many, but a blessing to somebody like myself that managed to accumulate Ethereum in the lows, and has done very well of it. And something like XRP sold off similarly. XRP essentially sold off by 96%. So you can see that there is this strategy of just holding indefinitely, and I think you guys know that I believe crypto is a fantastic long-term investment. I see them as a kindred to the stocks that came out of the internet, your Amazons, your Apples, and they're kind of, I believe that there's an adoption curve that crypto is going to embody, and many of these altcoins are going to see similar trajectories. But you can't ignore the fact that we have followed the Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory to date, and we know the entire market follows Bitcoin. You know, when Bitcoin sold off, and this is potentially a sign that it's time to get out of altcoins. If you see Bitcoin selling off significantly, it's time to jump out of your alts, because your alts actually topped out later than Bitcoin, but then got dragged. It's like a ball and chain, you know, that or like Bitcoin and the alts are attached. Bitcoin started to drop, and your altcoins kind of got bungeed down with it. So you've got to bear this in mind, and this is the main reason why I'm taking profits at the end of the year. If we look at 2017, Bitcoin actually topped out on the 18th of December. If we look at 2013, it topped out actually around about the 30th of November. So it tops out typically before the end of the year. Altcoins actually top out later. Like I say, something like Ethereum didn't top out until the 14th of January. Something like XRP topped out around about the 3rd of January. And something like Cardano topped out at around about the 5th of January. So Bitcoin topped out first and then to the bear market, kind of led the way into the bear market, and then your altcoins followed. You see the same thing today with the price going up, by the way, guys. Bitcoin's leading that charge and altcoins are following. So if we do indeed follow this model, this 4-year cycle theory, then that would give credence to the fact that we are going to enter a bear market at the end of the year. The reason I'm taking profits mainly is because I don't want to have to endure another bear market. Certainly if I know that I can take profits and then accumulate at a cheaper price and accumulate more of the asset that I'm trying to accumulate. Like, so for Bitcoin, for example, if it sells off, the aim of me selling at the end of the year, and it's only 75% of my entire portfolio that I'll be selling, is really to accumulate back in. It's not to get out of crypto, it's to buy back at a cheaper price. It sounds very idealistic, sounds very ifs, buts and maybes. You know, there's no guarantee that we are going to follow this. There are some reasons to doubt that we'll follow it, like the fact that we have institutions involved, like the fact that we have entire countries that have used and have now legalized it as a currency. Very interesting, and this is for another video. What happens to a country like El Salvador if we sell off by 85%? That would be extremely bad press for Bitcoin and crypto as a whole. And I don't really speak about it much. I think cryptocurrencies potentially in the future could be the cause of the next financial crisis. But that's for a completely another video. I think we've got a long trajectory to grow. They have to inflate this to a point where they can crash it with some sort of a magnitude. But I think you're a long way off from that. I think there's still trillions of dollars that have to flow into this market. And I still think the next couple of months are going to be fantastic, and we are going to end in a 2017-esque manner. You know, this is, of course, the normal chart. You know, it wasn't really until November, potentially the 11th of November, where you saw the most parabola out of this bull run. Same thing for 2013. You know, you got your November here, and then you see that kind of parabola. And I think you're going to see a same thing or a similar thing this year, guys. This cycle, 2021, looks very similar to 2013. I'd kind of wrote 2013 off in regards to a schematic due to the fact that the market just wasn't there. It was very, very small market cap and easily manipulated, very volatile. I didn't really think that 2021 would replicate it in such a manner that it has, but we have indeed done that. I mean, you can see, you know, this was 2013, and you've done a similar kind of thing, guys. So the short answer for this is if we follow the Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory at the end of the year, or before the end of the year for Bitcoin, and certainly when you start to see Bitcoin fall and slump into that bear market, then that's a real testimony that you're going into that bear market. And that you should start getting out of your altcoin positions, even though they might top a little bit later. Nobody's going to get this perfectly. That's why I have 25% of my portfolio that I'm leaving where it is. I have it staked. I have 25% of my Cardano. It's more than 25%, about 30% of my Cardano actually. 25% of my overall portfolio, but about 30% of my Cardano is going to stay in my stake pool, the all-in stake pool, and we're just going to leave it there indefinitely. As I think as a long-term project, a long-term investment, it's going to do very, very well. Coins like Polkadot, we're going to be locking them up in the crowd loans for 2 years. But there are a lot of cryptos, a lot of the meme coins, a lot of the coins that I ask myself, would I be comfortable just putting my money into this and leaving it for 5 years? And if the answer is no, I'll 100% be getting out at the end of the year. But coins that I think have real staying power, we are keeping a portion of my portfolio in indefinitely, as I'll be very happy with the profits that I've took from the portion that I'm selling. So that's the answer. But I mean, if you've just recently got into this market, it depends. If you don't want to risk trying to time the market, and timing the crypto space is so dangerous, guys. I mean, seriously, there's no guarantee you're going to enter a bear market at the end of this year into 2022. But historically, if you look at the Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory, we have done. And I think just the fact that everybody is looking at this, just the fact that everybody is using this as when to sell, is going to cause that sell-off that people are anticipating. So it's something to bear in mind. It's a subject matter of the utmost importance. You know, you guys know that I'm a perma bull on crypto. That doesn't mean that I don't think the market moves the way markets move. You know, they have ups, they have downs. But one thing that crypto's shown us is on a logarithmic chart, the only way is up. And you could have bought Bitcoin at really any price point today and you'd be in the profits. And I think that's going to be a trend that continues for crypto in the long term if you average it out. But I think ultimately you are going to have those dips. So that's the main answer. 75% of my portfolio will be getting sold at the end of the year, towards the end of the year. Bitcoin I'll be taking profits on earlier. I do have some Bitcoin that I'm just going to let ride, but I am going to take some profits out of Bitcoin and then hopefully buy back in at a cheaper price. I mean, that sounds, like I say, great if I can do that, if we follow the 4-year cycle theory. But then just as a safety blanket, yes, I've taken profits. I'll then have that little bit on just to ride in case we happen to not follow the 4-year cycle theory. And there are reasons why we potentially might not. The lengthening cycle theory, the super cycle theory. You know, do we ditch this kind of 4-year cycle theory and kind of go on an Amazon or a Tesla-esque growth chart or growth path due to the fact that we have institutions and all the things that I mentioned previously. So that's really the video that I have for you. Something that's absolutely worth bearing in mind. And remember, you know, if you see Bitcoin start to tank at the end of the year, if you see Bitcoin start, you know, we go up to 100K and you see Bitcoin start to really tank and, you know, kind of do a similar thing to what it did over here, and your altcoins are still going up, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It's time to get out, because altcoins topped out later than Bitcoin, but ultimately got dragged. I mean, with Ethereum, it was the 15th of January. The 15th of January, if we take a look at the Bitcoin chart, let's get it off log. This was the 5th of January. So this kind of top is where Cardano and everything kind of bottomed out. And then, of course, Bitcoin got slammed and the entire market went with it. So that's really the video that I have for you guys. You know, that's what we're expecting. We are expecting to follow a similar 4-year cycle, or we are expecting to follow this kind of 4-year roadmap. But ultimately, there's no guarantee. You guys need to make your own decisions. If you're happy to hold for 5 years, if 4 years, if let's say you want to hold until the next 4-year cycle theory, I don't think that's necessarily a bad decision. But for me, as somebody who's very involved with these markets, who watches them daily, it makes sense for me to kind of time my exits and entries. And that's the whole point of being a good investor. You buy at a cheap price and you sell it at a high price. And getting out is often more important than getting in. And people need to remember that. They need to remember to take profits. But like I say, I have a lot. Certainly when I talk about Cardano, 30% of my Cardano is staying put indefinitely. I'll be holding that for 5, 10, 15 years. And I'm only selling my cryptocurrencies at the end of the year because I believe potentially we are going to enter a bear market. And ultimately what I really want to do is accumulate more at a cheaper price. It's not to sell and move to something else. It's to sell and actually buy back. So we don't have to follow it. There are going to be some signs that we may not follow it. You know, if potentially we could play the Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory. You know, we go up to 100K and then we kind of come down and enter a mini kind of 4-year cycle theory. We just don't know with 100% accuracy how it's going to play out. But one thing that I don't want to be, like I was in 2017 or 2018, is the guy that has to watch his portfolio sell by 85%, and my altcoins do even worse. Or my Bitcoin sell off by 85% and my altcoins do even worse. So that's really all I have for you in this video. Just some stuff to get your the ideas flowing in your head, get you thinking about getting out before we potentially do enter a bear market. If we enter a bear market, like I say, cryptos that I'm going to be keeping indefinitely. I'll be locking all my Polkadot up pretty much in the crowd loans, because I want to get in on the projects to come out of Polkadot. So yeah, that's really all I have for you in this video, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to love and leave you on that note. If you enjoyed the content, like is always appreciated, so is a comment, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next YouTube video. Thank you very much for watching, guys.